I want to talk a little bit about why basically I think Bitcoin is superior to real estate. Now, I want to set the table. There's obviously some key points over here that I'm going to run through in the video that I want to shed a little bit of light on. But look, I mean, real estate has been an awesome investment in many cases in the US and, some of the better markets, for much of the last, basically 100 years really, right? If you're doing it right. And the point of this video is not to say that there's not opportunity in real estate. I used to work in real estate. It's sitting in real estate right now, right? I mean, there's always going to be value because real estate has some level of scarcity. I mean, specifically think, beachfront property and some of these other things. There's only, sort of so much to go around. And obviously it takes time to build new real estate, et cetera. People put a value on, newer buildings as opposed to older stuff, right? But real estate, I think in many markets has, like a lot of different assets that I'm going to talk about in comparison with Bitcoin, it's really gotten this premium, meaning it's sort of priced well beyond what it actually should be. And I think in many ways that's because of the ability to basically buy real estate on leverage, right? If you buy, imagine you buy a house in the US, you put 3% down, the bank, government, gets you a loan for the other remaining 97%. You're essentially buying real estate with 33x leverage, right? You put down 3 to borrow 33. To borrow, 33 times that, right, being the remainder. And so that alone, right, if you look at other markets, where I'm at, you can't really get loans like that to buy properties. You have to buy everything cash. And so you have a much truer market for that reason about what the price of things actually should be, because you actually have to have the cash to buy it. Obviously a little bit harder for people to gain access to be able to buy a property for that reason. Point being, a lot of people, even foreign money, has come to the US and they've just parked money, in Miami real estate or in certain markets, which again continues to kind of raise the price of, real estate and these different assets people purchase. But there's a reason why, again, as I think what I'm going to get into now, right, as Bitcoin emerges, I think that Bitcoin is going to continue to steal away some of the premium, right? And so if you think about it at a high level, why with real estate, everyone needs to live somewhere, right? They're either going to own the place they live or they're going to rent the place they live. Now, when you have excess capital and you want to invest it, let's say you want to put it in real estate, what's the goal of allocating that capital into real estate, right? You obviously want to park your money in an asset that's going to accrue value over time at a rate, beyond the rate, certainly at which the dollar is going to lose value. Ultimately much more than that, right? So you can actually get a positive return and you want to park that money, again, in a safe place that's going to appreciate. And so, I think a lot of people are going to make a different decision about where's the best place to actually put that money when you compare Bitcoin with real estate on a relative basis and you actually look at all the different flaws that exist with real estate. So given the long-winded intro, let's talk about kind of these 12 points over here. And so here's some of the key flaws, like I said, that exist for real estate. Number one, government mismanagement risk, right? And so let's say you own a property in, Texas or some random state, let's say. The government could do a terrible job managing that state. They could change the rules and the laws and drive business and capital out of the state and ultimately ruin the value of your property even though you didn't do anything wrong, right? That's number one. Bitcoin doesn't have that. Secondly, right, its location can't be moved. This is kind of similar to the first point, but again, it's just an asset that, if you buy a house in Florida and, Wyoming is a booming market, you can't just take that asset and put it in Wyoming, right? The real estate stays where it is, right? Unless you're buying a mobile home. And so every property is different, right? So imagine you're a big allocator, you've got, $50 million, $100 million, and you want to start putting it into real estate. Not every property is the same, right? Every single property is different, right? There's different tenants. There's, materials that went in to build it. Not everyone is built the same. Different, years that these properties were built. There's a different water heater in every building, right? And so different things can go wrong. And so it's really hard to just put funds in and say, I'm going to invest in this asset class because there's, again, wildly different variability amongst even just different properties in real estate. Now, again, new supply is being built every day. So if you're somebody who owns, some real estate and you like the real estate that you have, great. Supply and demand though, right? Every single day there's new properties being built. yours is now a little bit older compared to all the new stuff. It doesn't really happen with Bitcoin, right? Obviously, there's new supply that comes into the market that miners, help bring into existence, but that's already predetermined. There's 21 million Bitcoin. That's it. There's really, how many real estate, or how many homes, or how many apartment complexes will exist? The number's essentially infinite. It's not infinite, but we don't know actually the top. So you're buying an asset with an uncertain supply. Now you have annual property taxes, right? Let's say you own a property every single year. You got that tax bill you need to pay just for the privilege of owning it, right? You don't pay property taxes just holding on to Bitcoin. Maintenance costs, right? Great, everything goes wrong. The paint, the wood, the TVs break, the couches get bad, flooring needs to be replaced at some point, water heaters go. There's roofs that need to be replaced, right? Obviously, again, there's insurance and things like that to help offset some of these costs, but you have ongoing costs that you have to deal with. And again, if you have bad tenants, those costs can skyrocket, moving one tenant out, trying to put another one in. And so it's a real challenge and something to navigate, and why a lot of people can lose money in real estate because they're not properly factoring in how to handle maintenance costs. You have a higher entry cost in many ways, right? You can buy $1 of Bitcoin and you have a slice of an exposure, right, into this asset class. With real estate, look, there's like REITs, and there's some of these other like vehicles popping up where you could like be a fractional owner of things, but that's not really accessible to most people. And again, there's management risk. You're like now hoping this company does a great job with it, and there's just that higher entry cost to get in. Weather damage, right? There's hurricanes, there's tornadoes, there's just hot weather that beats buildings down because they're made with raw materials, and those materials degrade over time. Not a problem with Bitcoin, right? It is what it is. It's digital in nature, and you don't have some of those same issues. Now you've got, tenant damage. And so you could do everything right. You could beautifully furnish a place. You could, do your best effort to screen a tenant, and they could come in and just totally screw up the property, right? And then you as the owner obviously have to pay those costs out of the rent you've been receiving just to get it ready for the next tenant who's going to move in. And so that's a real cost of owning that asset class. Again, not very liquid, right? It's not super easy for people to just, if you own, let's say you own a $300,000 apartment outright, depending on what market it's in, it's not really easy for most people to just be like, I need $30K and I want to just get, a portion of that liquid right now because I want to use it for some other investment or spend all my life. You can't really do that. Obviously, some people can take, kind of a second, or they can take, some money out against the property, but not as easy to do. Takes some time. There's other additional costs that go in with getting access to that money. And so, again, there's also even if you want to list your home for sale right now, you need a buyer. You enter into a contract. Most real estate deals never are really closing in less than 30 days from the moment you list it and want to sell it. So it just takes time to get liquid, and then not divisible. Kind of the point I sort of mentioned just a second ago, right? It's not as easy to get fractional liquidity on that asset. But with Bitcoin, you own one Bitcoin, you could sell a tenth of it. You can borrow dollars against it or whatever you want to do. You just have so much flexibility. And so with that, like I said, I hope there's at least a couple interesting points covered in this video when comparing, Bitcoin versus real estate. I think, again, different asset classes, both are always going to have their place, but because there's such a premium that exists in real estate, and there's so much, I think, kind of excess capital that will actually be able to find a better home without some of the flaws, as I mentioned, to be able to get a better return. I think this is a good case of why I think a lot of that money is going to come out of real estate and into Bitcoin, and why the opportunity ahead of us is just so big. So appreciate it. If you stuck around this long, thank you. First of all, if you guys don't mind, please like the video and subscribe. If you haven't, I'm going to start dropping a lot of content pretty regularly. If you have a topic you want me to cover, comment below. Other than that, have a good day. Thank you.